Well, hello everybody and welcome to this session of Thrive TV. We're looking at Island heritage and we're going to look at the town of Newport for you. So this will be a biography of that place of Newport, Isle of Wight. I'd just like to say thank you to the Isle of Wight Council's Museum and Heritage Service and Carisbrooke Castle Museum. As we go through the presentation, we'll see they have kindly lent me the images and maps as we go through, so thank you to them. So Newport, then let's have a look. So it sits here at the confluence of two rivers. We've got the Lukeley and we've got the Medina, as we know, through here, and the Lukeley Brook coming out this way. And as you look here at the geological map, we can see this lighter colour, which is our chalk ridge that we know extends to the Needles here and then out to Pembridge and Culver here. And there's a gap which is just in the middle there. And this is where, as we know, Newport sits. And if we look at the bottom picture, we can see on the topography that we've got high ground to the west and high ground to the east, and in the middle this gap through into the lower ground. And as we've got here across in 1861, we've got Wilkins, who says that the town lies on a small plain formed by a break of the Central Downs in little more than a square mile. And from it, hills slope gently upwards on all sides, except in the north, which presents a fine opening of the Medina Valley. So we can see that it is a very good place to have that settlement. Indeed, Carisbrooke Castle here, for defensive purposes and administrative purposes, has been sited in this area, as we know. So that's our location, a really good location for a settlement. And we can see from the archaeology, we've got from kind of earliest times, really, from Paleolithic and into Neolithic, through from Mesolithic ages, different finds of stone tools on either side of our kind of higher ground there, and just kind of showing that this is a really historic site. And if we move then from the kind of prehistory into Roman times, we've got quite a wealth again of find spots throughout the town, perhaps most keenly noted here by the presence of the Roman villa down here in Cypress Road. And you can see just from all of these different pointers on the historic environment data that this is a really kind of populated area. So we've got the known sites, but we've also got some other kind of masonry and part of a hypercaust, in fact, that's found away from the villa its site, which is just here. And this tells us that this area, there is much more to be found. We've got the river obviously coming along here, so perhaps if this was navigable all the way down through in Roman times, perhaps we're going to find one day the remains of a Roman port, or at least a quay that was in use at that time. We've got all of these different find spots across the town, mostly coins, but also when the railways were put in up here, we found evidence for some burials, some Roman burials, which is interesting because the Romans didn't bury their dead in the settlement. They were very much outside of the confines of the settlement area. So we can kind of start to see then that the settlement area taking place across there. And also at this time, we've got possibly the remains of Carisbrooke Castle, or lower enclosure at Carisbrooke Castle, being potentially of Roman construction. When you look at a map, it is a playing card shape, which is quite indicative of a Roman site at that time, or a Roman military site indeed. So that's our Romans. As we move onwards in time, we're going to look, oh yeah, we just got a little bit more Roman there to show you inside the villa itself, into our kind of Saxon or early medieval period. And again, if I get my pointer up, we can see we've got in the middle here the castle, I'm not going to try and pronounce the name of that in the Old English. I'll give it a go. And we've got the valley here, the Buchan Valley, with the Lukeley Brook going down through the middle. And towards the sort of southwest here of the castle, we can see we've got lots of archaeology, lots of things going on here. We've got a Saxon burial ground here. We've got some Roman villas along here. And we've got lots of coin finds, theatres that have been found, and different worked metal items as well in this area here, kind of close to Froglands in that valley area. And this would be indicative to us, perhaps as archaeologists, that this was a really important site. Those types of coins are usually found where trade has happened, perhaps a marketplace, at least kind of indicative of several people being there, or some kind of event happening. It's not just a kind of chance find. So this could mean that it's a really important site for the island. It could be our central place where the administration was taking place, where people were gathering to trade. And also, because it's on the Lukeley Brook, which is feeding into the Medina, it could be that it feeds into a wider network of trade in context with Southampton. At that time, we were calling it Hamwick, which was the kind of central trading place in the south of England. So the island could be, really important in that context, and certainly this area here, this trading place, this central place on the island, could fit into that. So it's a really important place, not just on the island, but actually Newport is beginning to shape itself in terms of the wider world at that time. We've got Carisbrooke Castle then. It is going into the kind of Norman era now, being built on that probable Saxon burh and potentially earlier Roman enclosure. But certainly the layout that we see now is that Norman classic stone with the keep in the corner as well. And this area was part of the Manor of Buchan at Doomsday. So the Normans then have come over, they've built the castle, and now they're actually going to give a charter to Newport to say it is a town and it is going to be able to trade and operate as that town, as a settlement. But it seems likely that there was already a settlement, or perhaps a small fishing village on that site. The wording of the charter says that it's given confirmation to my burgesses. So something was there as well. And although the most obvious place name reference would have it as the Newport, clearly sort of serving the castle and the settlement at Carisbrooke, it seems likely that given where it is in the archaeology, that there was perhaps already a settlement there, that the Normans have kind of come along and given this name, the Newport, given it a more significance, and actually started to establish it as a bigger place, really. Kind of already, as we said, we've had the perhaps market in existence, perhaps at Buchan. We've also got on the banks of the Medina, so underneath, if you're familiar with that, underneath the Sainsbury's petrol station, we've got the Priory of St Cross. And also we're beginning to see the church moving itself as well, moving its administration into the town, into the Newport. Before that, the parish church was at Carisbrooke, but now we've got a chapel of ease within Newport itself, so recognising that it's beginning to grow. So the earliest known map of the town is the Speeds map, as it's known, of 1611. And you can see there the grid pattern of that planned town is marked across. We've got the market sites. We've got streets that we're all kind of familiar with. We've got Pyle Street. We've got the entrance into Newport. We've got the High Street across here. We've got St James's Street. Okay, we've got Lugley Street and we've got Crocker Street. And then down here, fanning out from Church is there. We've got Key Street. And I think Key Street's really important for me because when you look at the grid lines that are planned out across here, Quay Street doesn't seem to fit. It's almost at odds with that grid pattern. When you trace it through on the map, even today you can do this. It looks like it is an earlier, perhaps, route up towards the castle and perhaps out towards Carisbrooke, even the earlier central place that we've talked about being out in the Buchan Valley. So again, it just gives weight to the fact that there was something here. So Newport, this planned town, is actually just kind of reinforcing that settlement that's there, that we have already talked about. And then what else we can gain from this map? We can see that we've got Town Gate up here. So Town Gate on towards Honey Hill, up the hill. And although it does talk about in some of the documentary evidence about gates and about town gates and about another gate on the western, southern and eastern edges, it's more likely these were administrative titles and terms rather than physical gates, and in that sense, so more to kind of control who and what in terms of goods were coming in and out of that town so that they could tax them and kind of know who was kind of trading in what. Because actually the archaeology is yet to find any evidence for any physical structures. So in terms of gates, and this being still known here as Town Gate, it's more likely to be a administrative term than anything else. However, having said that, we do see in the town some evidence of some really archaeologically important masonry walls. This one here, if you were to come down New Street and then turn left to go back towards Carisbrooke, you would see this wall here. This wall here at the other end perhaps of town, or the other end of that kind of area, we've got in the grounds of the Node Hill School in their car park. It's a really interesting piece of masonry here, piece of wall surviving. So it could be that not necessarily part of any surviving walls because they don't follow any alignment, but it might be that they are kind of just showing or delimiting the areas of the plots of each person owned within that grid pattern. So if you were sort of plotted them on here and here, you can start to see that they might sort of fall that in function, and rather than a wall around the outside in that form. Still very archaeologically important, so we need to make sure that they are preserved, and they still are on that local list. So if we move on from being a walled town, we think about now where are we going with Newport and the next couple of centuries. We've learned its growth, we've learned where it's come from and why it's there. So hopefully you'll join me next time to find out more about Newport, and we'll look at the medieval and post-medieval times. So thank you very much, and we hope to see you all again soon.